Hello, everyone. Good morning. So nice to be here to see your names. Hi, Joan and Cynthia and Marcus and Sophie and Louis and Oleg, Maryse, Elaine, Ludmilla, Coral, Gail, uh, Marcus, Elena. Yeah, so nice to be with you, my friends, and to practice together. So glad that you are just really generously to yourself and to the sangha, taking this time to sit together and to affirm the importance of practice in our lives, the importance of community, practice community in our lives. So warms my heart and gives me a lot of joy. Um, So I'd like to share with you um, a practice that I have been doing over the past week. I was attending an online retreat with Bhikkhu Analio, and many of you might be familiar with his teachings. He's a scholar and a very deeply dedicated yogi. He actually lives his life on retreat 5 days a week and then works 2 days a week and teaching Dharma online and then of course he used to also sometimes teach retreats in person and hopefully will again. He has been researching early Buddhist teachings and in a way reconnecting with some of these meanings in the teachings that may have been lost uh, because of later commentaries and later practices. And those of you who may have been following this um, may have heard this expression early Buddhist teachings as kind of contrast to the Theravada teachings. So Theravada being a later branching of the commentaries on the early Buddhist teachings. Um, so yeah, so it's really been lovely to practice with him. I have on a number of occasions, and then just recently he gave an online course on the Brahma Viharas, the boundless states of heart, and emptiness. So the Buddhist um, realization of emptiness, which is the unique teaching of the Buddha leading to liberation, and showing how the Brahma Viharas can be a way of kind of entering into a deeper experience of emptiness. And in my teaching today, I'd like to just talk a little bit about specifically how he teaches the Brahma Viharas, how he uh, reconnects with the early Buddhist teachings and the way he teaches it, which might be just a bit different focus from um, how many of us learned it, going to insight retreats, Vipassana retreats, and so on. Um, he he talks about metta, which is loving friendship or friendship, goodwill. He uses the word benevolence, and the others are karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. Um, and he teaches these as ways of, in a way, immersing ourselves, immersive and radiating experiences. So I'm going to focus on metta, and this is really what I've been focusing on in my practice, and I just have a lot of joy to discover a dimension of these practices that I had just had a kind of an inkling of, as my own practice kind of edged onto it, but really seeing these as a way of deepening and opening the heart, and really connecting with life, in a non-dual way, in a way that is not self and other. Just to say that one of the things that always was a bit of I don't know, I'll use the word obstacle, although it's not the best word, but it felt like limited, in the way that I learned the Brahma Viharas, that there was a particular object. So we would learn to direct kindness toward ourselves, toward a friend, somebody we felt close to, a neutral person, and somebody who was a difficult person, somebody that we had some kind of difficulty communicating with, or some distance, a sense of distance from. And there was this, it always felt like me and you, me and myself, even if I'm directing it toward myself, there was a sense in the way I learned it, which I did get past in my practice to a large degree, but there was this sense of dualism, like self and other, which is really not in the consistently in the spirit of metta. And as he pointed out, it wasn't that effective as a practice. He was practicing to, he has admitted, or on many occasions, that he's an aversive type. So his mind can be very critical. He can flare up into anger, irritation. And he was really wanting to, it had been recommended to him, and he was really wanting to practice to kind of move past this, and saying these phrases over and over again. They just stayed in his head. It really didn't go deeply into his heart. And so he began, or I think he happened to discover some early Buddhist discourse on this, which was in a different practice mode from that particular form, which is taught in the Visuddhimagga, which is a commentary on the early Buddhist teachings, and this practice of metta was taught very much in the mode of radiating metta. So evoking metta in oneself, and we can do that in various ways, and then radiating it outward. But also, it's not that we're just radiating it outward, and it's not touching our own being. We're immersed in that, and it radiating boundlessly in all directions. So this way of deeply connecting with metta is to to evoke uh, this heart-mind quality in some way that is effective for us. So it could be thinking of, it could be an image. It could be an image of a a child, a young child, or a bird. I'm put out some water on my back porch because the birds were always taking baths in the water that I put out for my dog, and so in an attempt to give them an alternate bath, I put out a bowl of water in a higher place. Of course, now they have two baths, and they take baths in my dog's bowl and also in the one I put out for them. But anyway, that's okay. But they just drink from it, and they plunk their whole body into it and immerse themselves and shake off the water. And it just evokes a quality of metta in me, is the sense of caring for these beings, these little beings that give these beautiful sounds and have their lives aloft in the air and the trees. It's so it opens my heart. That's just one way that comes to mind that evokes metta for me. Or just saying the word, because that also for me is very powerful. I have so many. Just it's such a powerful practice. So now just saying the word silently metta to myself evokes that quality of heart mind. And so seeing all your names up there with all the emoji. It's both joy and metta to be here with you. So these, just something that, not to dwell on the actual image or experience, but as an entryway into the heart and into this sense of connectedness and caring and kindness and benevolence, goodwill, friendship. That is such a beautiful quality of heart, and which really is so powerful in purifying ill will. One of the things Bhikkhu Analayo also talked about was that it can be used as an antidote in a particular moment when we may feel ill will or resentment, to call forth metta, but much more powerfully. And I've always found for myself in my own practice that when unwholesome states arise, that it's, for me, my go-to practice is wisdom, is to see through the impermanent dukkha and non-self, the state qualities, characteristics of those unwholesome states. So there it's arising for causes and conditions. It's suffering. It's impermanent. It's something that's just arising, and if I don't cling to it and form construct a sense of identity around it, it's going to move through. It's going to pass through. So those wisdom, kind of the sword of wisdom, is really my way of practicing with unwholesome states that arise. And what I find, and what he talked about in a very beautiful way, was how metta and the other Brahma Viharas all actually purify, have a very powerful purifying effect on the whole being of cultivating these qualities of heart that in which ill will and cruelty and and jealousy and grasping and pushing away are much less likely to arise, and if they do arise, they are weakened in the impact and the power that they have to distort and our view and create suffering. So so I've thought of it like clearing the fields. Like, I've been gardening, and so, so the first thing that I do is to go out and pull up all the weeds. Weeds, that which would grow naturally if I didn't cultivate the garden. So this would be a maple forest. All the little maple seedlings I pulled up. This would be a maple forest in a couple of decades if it were intended. You know? So um, it's it's just kind of the way that it might go naturally, and so these unwholesome qualities, they they're they're part of the human being. Um, they're a natural part of the human being, and a lot of them are tied to survival and to helping us to make sense of the world, and but to come to liberation, to come to a deeper freedom and joy and, uh, and happiness, we need to cultivate the mind. So anyway, a little digression, but yeah. So clearing the fields, uh, cultivating the field, so that the wholesome um, life emerges and grows, becomes stronger. The fruits that will nourish us and nourish the world will develop. So yes. So I think that what I'd like to do now is to maybe lead us into a practice, a guided meditation on metta, and 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 I'll follow the system that Bhikkhu Analayo taught. So just vows of gratitude and acknowledgement to this teacher, to for his profound and skillful teachings. So please take a comfortable posture for meditation. So you choose how you wish to relate to the computer screen. You absolutely don't need to be looking at the computer screen. If probably, you'll probably close your eyes, or at least lower your gaze and soften it. So just let your body feel balanced, stable. If you're sitting in a chair or on a cushion or bench. Let your spine be upright, energized, not stiff, relaxed, and at the same time with an upward energy. And your shoulders and face and whole inner core relaxed. And as we begin, it's always helpful to bring to mind our motivation to practice. How would you express your motivation? And to bring into this all as well, however you would express your intention, your orientation toward freedom. Bring an altruistic dimension to this as well. Bringing to mind how this benefits others in widening circles, ways that we can't we can't possibly know. So many ways that our wisdom and love ripples outward to bring goodness and relief and comfort to suffering beings. And so begin this guided metta practice by evoking loving kindness, evoking metta. So this quality of friendship, of, of benevolence, of not wishing harm to others, of wishing that others thrive, be safe, be well. A sense of friendliness. And just experience this suffusing our being, just feeling and however really not getting caught up in it should be like this but just this quality of metta. And there's just in Analayo often talks about just as we enter into practice, there's this quality of joy and just arriving mindfully in this moment. And even joy can be a kind of an entryway into metta. They're so they're connected. They're both Brahma Viharas, and so this quality of heart, kindness, however, whether through an image or saying the word, or if saying a phrase, if you've used the phrases and saying a phrase just evokes that quality of metta for you. May I and all beings live with ease and well-being on this earth, or whatever phrase, but not getting into the phrase over and over, but just touching it, and or maybe touching it a few times. And 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 so that quality of metta, uh, just however, and it may be something very kind of strong, or it may be very subtle. It may be something like a little flicker. Um, when we think of a particular person or an image of a flower or an animal, so just that little flicker can be given attention to, um, like, and that that attention is like tending. And what we attend to is what grows. So gently, kindly attending to that little flame. And then he, Anilyo, just talks about radiating. And in the Metta Sutta, it's described how we radiate kindness in all directions. And so having an image of a light or a flame that is within us, within our being. And the image that he used was as if it's surrounded by curtains. And so just gently drawing away the curtain in the front so that metta radiates just boundlessly in the front. So it's not impeded. So again, this is a practice. Um, and if something pops into mind about, well, I don't feel metta for this or that, I'll just, go back to tending the little flame. You don't need to get caught up in thinking about that. Just tending that flame and letting it shine to the front. And then drawing back the curtain to the right and to the back and to the left and above and below. And so, of course, inwardly, we're not left out of this boundless metta. We are within it. It is part of us. And there's a shift that Anilyo speaks about, which is a very important shift from doing metta to being metta. And so in the beginning, we are really, there's an intention and there's a kind of developing these skillful means of going through different steps and touching into the heart and visualizing metta going in all directions, visualizing this light shining in all directions, boundlessly. And then at a certain point, we can just stop and rest and let go of the efforting, let go of any effort and just resting, being metta. And so without any sense at all of perfectionism and is this right and should it be like this and I don't think I'm doing it right or any of that stuff that our mind gets caught up in. Just playing with this, just enjoying the exploration of how can I play with this practice in a way that just kind of tends that little flame and helps it to grow into a great light of loving kindness. So I'm going to stop talking for a couple of minutes, and so we can just be with the instructions so far. Another one of the instructions that Anelio gave for working with metta, that we can use the breath as a way of staying connected with the practice. So, so bringing in energy, the continuity of practice. That's how energy is practiced as an awakening factor. Bringing in energy by just, and it's not kind of either or going, but a slight emphasis on the in-breath, on connecting with the quality of metta, and a slight emphasis on the out-breath in radiating metta. And so the breath can help us to stay connected to this process. It's not, again, when we're breathing in, we don't forget about radiating, but it's kind of just a little emphasis. See if that's helpful to you, to connect with the breath, and also for so many of us, the breath is such an important part of our practice. So breathing in, connecting with that quality, that heart quality of metta, and breathing out, radiating in all directions. And of course, mindfulness is also a part of this practice. It's as we practice, we're working with the awakening factors, of which mindfulness is the foundation. And so mindfulness might show us that the mind has drifted away. And so that's really helpful. And so we can be grateful for mindfulness and and for that support in our practice. And Alio always refers to sati, mindfulness, as a feminine voice. So we thank her and we go back. And so if we have wandered way off into, perhaps some drama, some mental Sternendrang drama of, suffering, we might want to start right at the beginning, evoking that, like really cultivating that quality, connecting with that quality, and then radiating it. Or if it's just a momentary drifting away, we can just come back and connect with the breathing in and out of metta. So, in the last few minutes of the practice, I'd like um, to guide through using the awakening factors to develop metta. And so I've talked about the awakening factors a little bit. Some of you may not be that familiar with them. Probably many of you. It's 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 not a kind of a teaching that's always taught. Or very. It's one of the basic central teachings of Dharma. Um, um, yeah. So, but anyway, whether or not you're familiar with it, I'd like to just guide a little bit about how we can use these skills, these tools of the awakening factors to cultivate um, the Brahma Viharas, and in this case, in particular, metta. So the foundation of the 7 awakening factors is mindfulness. And so we can be mindful of metta, just mindful when it's there and when it's not there. And then the second awakening factor is investigation. So there's an interest, a curiosity, kind of a wanting to look deeply. And so what is this quality of metta? What is the experience of it? How does it feel? What's the internal experience of it? Uh, of, um, of, of, of experiencing metta, of, of evoking metta, of being metta, of radiating metta. And of course, also in our daily lives, we can investigate, be curious about how metta is also present around us and how we experience it as manifested in life around us, in other people, and in just in life. And how is this quality of friendship and kindness being expressed? How do we see it and feel it? So the second is investigation. And then the third, investigation, evokes energy. So we become curious, and it arouses our energy to keep cultivating that quality of metta. So let's just spend a minute with those first 3. Mindful of metta, curious and interested in what it is, how it feels, and how that curiosity engages us, helps us to keep going in the practice. And when energy is aroused, when energy ignites in the practice and we're engaged, joy arises. There's this quality uh, of joy in this beautiful practice that we're engaged, um, that that this beautiful quality of metta is being cultivated. So joy can meet metta, the joy of cultivating and being metta. And in this joy, the mind becomes more calm and settled. So I'm just giving pointers now for you to perhaps touch into in future practice if this is something that evokes your interest, something that you feel an affinity for, drawn toward to cultivate in your practice. So as joy arises, the mind becomes more calm because joy is the support for the mind calming down. We're stopping to look for our happiness outside this constant search for gratification and happiness, and we begin to recognize that we have a source of joy from within, that we can feel contented and at ease through our inner cultivation. So tranquility. And then this helps the mind to become more collected. So there's a unity, a unification of body and mind and heart that happen. And this is samadhi, this quality of samadhi that develops. And then equanimity, so a balance, that we're not getting caught in grasping and pushing things away. So that was kind of a quick summary of of the awakening factors. Um, and so let's just spend another couple of minutes in silence. And you can continue to cultivate metta. You can bring in these awakening factors if that feels like the right way to be present in your practice right now. Or you can just go to feeling the body and feeling the breath as we spend another few minutes in silence. So let's dedicate the blessings, the goodness of our practice to the healing, well-being, and liberation of all beings everywhere. And evoking, if you wish, as you dedicate particular beings that you hold in your heart with love and compassion, and dedicating your practice to them if you wish. This practice of metta can be done in everyday life. We can take this practice with us as we walk about on the streets. And I find it really, actually, for myself, a very important practice to do now, because there's a lot of fear, and I think many people are doing it. Actually, this just bringing this quality of friendliness into um, our engagement, our interactions. Um, when I'm walking on the street, I often find that you know I don't usually wear a mask if I'm not in a enclosed place, but uh, people will look and will smile. You know, this sense of we're in this together. We care about each other. We know that by taking care of ourselves, we're taking care of everyone, and the well-being of everyone impacts on our own well-being. So the interdependence is so apparent at this time. Um, Going into stores, grocery shopping, I find that the stress level is high, and so it's for me it's a really helpful practice to really consciously cultivate this friendliness, a friendly heart. Then I am wearing my mask, so smiling with my eyes, and giving people lots of space and letting people go first. So this is a way that I've been cultivating this, and it's really is so supportive. I find it such a supportive practice to do. So I encourage you to also do this. So I want to let people know, I don't think it's on our website yet, but it will be soon, that we have an upcoming online retreat. And so Joseph Goldstein will be teaching for TNI, and it's a fundraiser for us because, of course, as you can imagine, True North Insight, we're not offering retreats, so we don't have. Even though the retreats, we never made a lot of money on them because we want to make them accessible. Still, they're a way that we're out, offering something visible in the world, and so anyway, Joseph has very generously and kindly um, offered to teach a retreat, an online retreat with Pascal Auclair and with Roxane Do. So this will be June 12th, 13th, and 14th. And I think that the posting will go up on the True North Insight website pretty soon. So keep an eye open for it. And I also want to please remind you about The doggy nose just poked through the door. Sorry, I got distracted. I want to please remind you about Dana. We rely on your Dana. So, of course, as you know, teaching is my livelihood, and I thank you for your generosity, and and especially also True North Insight. Um, we are we're really wanting this little, very modest and streamlined organization to be one of the survivors of the pandemic. There's so much loss, so many things are are struggling to survive. We don't know if the retreat centers that we have used will be there when this pandemic is over. And we want to continue to be there for you and to adapt, to be nimble, to be flexible and adaptable, and keep sharing the Dharma and being in this beautiful unfolding of Dharma life together with all of you. So, so thank you. I'll say, I don't know if I said everybody's names, but before Louis and Oleg and Elaine and Gail. Um, so I'm not sure I said these names. Coral and Geneviève and so and Philippa. So so Mary's. So thank you. Really, such a joy to to be in practice with you, to be in this Dharma life with you, and that we know, even if it's not, uh, we're not seeing each other, we're not able to touch hands and to embrace one another. We know we're sharing this Dharma life. We know that we're supporting one another, and this is so so precious, so beautiful. So, thank you, my love, to each and every one of you, and be well. And I look forward to being with you next week. Please do also um, uh, stay connected to the TNI teachings all week. And I'm teaching on Wednesdays on Zoom through Yoga on the Park. The link the link is sent a half an hour before the sitting begins. Wednesdays 4 to 5. So if you want to join at Yoga on the Park, it's a way of supporting that organization as well, where we have gathered in our Sunday sangha. So I hope to see you there on Wednesday afternoons at 4 sometimes when it works for you. Okay. So be well, my friends.